Hey, giant builders. So there are a lot of tough topics to talk about in life. And one of those would be planning your funeral. And so today we have an expert who's going to share some tips on what to do, what to expect, and how to move forward.
Building spirituality, family, health, and business. This is the Giant Builders with Lois Wyant.
All right, giant builders. So today's guest is Randi, and she's going to talk to us about planning a funeral. But just willing to say that these are some seasons or some steps in life. Just back in February the 6th, we talked to our guest was a stroke survivor, and just the process of getting through that. And then also on February 27th, our guest talked to us about seasons of caring, know how to talk to your parents and elderly people in your family on talking about the next step. And today we're going to talk about planning your funeral. And I think that's something that everybody could do to just relieve stress from their family. So let's meet today's speaker. Hey, giant builders, welcome. I'm so glad that you are here, and I hope that you are having a wonderful day. And today's guest is Randi Goldstein, Casey. And hi, Randi, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me. How are you?
Great, great. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. I am a third generation owner of a funeral home. My grandfather and great uncle started it. Our funeral home name is Goldstein's Rosenberg's Raphael Sachs, and we are located in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Southampton, Pennsylvania, and we do have a location in Atlantic City, New Jersey that is known as Roth Goldstein's Memorial Chapel. So,
Okay. What intrigued you to continue the family business?
I started working here when I was 18 as administrator, doing admin work, and didn't quite know what I want to do when I was going to college. I saw what we did. I liked what we did. I liked helping people. So when I graduated with my bachelor's in English, which I had nothing to do with that, I went on to mortuary school and decided I really liked it and came into the family business. It's really nice knowing that you're helping people at their worst time. It's really nice that it's a family legacy that right now running Goldstein's Rosenberg's Raphael Sachs is third and fourth generation, with fourth and fifth still coming in. So
Wow.
it's pretty impressive. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so working in a family business has its unique challenges. What suggestions do you have for people who are working in that kind of dynamics?
Have a lot of patience.
Oh,
No, the one thing we were taught as an early age, because we grew into this business, is leave it at work. You don't take it home. Like, so if you're arguing with your partner, who's your cousin or your sibling or whatever, it stays in the building. You don't bring it home with you. So, and we're a really close-knit family, because a lot of my partners, I wouldn't really know, even though we're related. They're like fourth and fifth cousins. You don't really, that the branches start to get so spread out that you wouldn't know them. So it's kind of nice that I'm so close with cousins that I probably wouldn't really know in a real world,
that's a
outside of
good
a business like this.
Well, that's cool. Yeah. All right,
And being one of the only girls, they kind of watch out for you.
oh. Do you find it different to being a woman in the business?
100%. Yeah.
Oh, tell me about
Yeah.
that.
So especially in the funeral business, women are becoming more involved and becoming licensed funeral directors, where you have to be licensed. But like when I first started out, I had one cousin who's a little bit older than me, and she was already licensed, and she kind of, wrote the path for this and made it a lot easier. But women in this industry, it's notoriously the boys' club, the men's club. They're not very nice. And when we deal with the Jewish population, which we mainly deal with, when you deal with Orthodox, they don't want to deal with women, no matter what. So we're beneath them. So that was a challenge too, dealing with rabbis and families and letting them know that I can do whatever a man can do.
Hmm.
And also going out to the cemeteries when you're taking a funeral out, it's a man's world out there. When
Mm.
you're a woman, they either really, really like you or they really, really don't. So it depends on what you get. But it's tough. People don't think women and funeral industry go together, but honestly, that's changing. So for the better, I
Yeah.
hope.
I would, and not to sound like a woman, but I would think that you would have more of a kind of a heartfelt for the situation.
I think women in general are more empathetic,
Hmm.
so get it a little bit, especially once you become, if you are a parent, that kind of changes your whole perspective on life. But I think men today are better at that and are definitely, the younger guys coming in are absolutely better at it than like my father and my uncle and my older cousins were. Um, we really have a good network of mix, but yeah, I think women just come by it a little more naturally. We're not ashamed to cry in front of a family. Like when it's really sad, we can show our emotions easier. I
Yeah.
definitely agree with you there.
Yeah. Well, this is a really sensitive time. So, how do you approach families, or what are some of the tips to helping families through this?
I think the biggest thing we can do is listen to a family.
Mm.
Actually let them talk, tell us how they're feeling, whether they're complaining about hospice or complaining about whatever, or they're, just really, really distraught and upset and they just want to cry. Just be there. Let them, don't press them for what they want to do or how they want to handle the funeral. Let them grieve. Let them feel what's going on and let them give them some time. I would say were the biggest things I can say, time and listening. And
Yeah.
then, of course, the last thing would be to be able to guide them through it. We are the funeral directors. We need to direct them. Most people have never done this before, and it's a scary thought. And you're at your worst. You just lost a loved one. So it's a lot of just hand holding and being there for them.
Yeah, a lot of emotions and a lot of planning. Now, there is a process that was in your notes about pre-planning the funerals. Can you expand on that for us? Like, what can people do to kind of alleviate some of this concern for their family?
So pre-planning a funeral or making pre-arrangements is basically going through an entire arrangement prior to someone dying. It's getting all your wishes down. Um, Things can be tweaked. Nothing's set permanent, but we can tweak some stuff. But for the most part, you yourself can decide how you want your funeral to be, or as someone else planning a funeral for a loved one, you can help them or do it for them if they're not able to. Um, the idea of encouraging prearrangements is that our funeral home, we like to say that it's a gift to your family
Mm.
because when you call up Goldstein's Rosemary's Rayfield Sacks and you say, I just lost a loved one and I don't know what to do, it's a lot. But when they call up and say, my dad pre-arranged the funeral with you guys, we can look up the records, we can tell them we got it. They can still come in and go over it, which we encourage, but they're like, wow, I'm so glad they did this. It makes life so much easier. And it is, it's a gift. And it takes the onus off of the family members left to figure out what they wanted. You're basically, it's like writing a will, you're putting
Yeah.
your wishes down. It's the same. It's basically, it's honestly a part of life, estate planning,
Mhm.
especially if you have to move into like an assisted living. They want you to spend down your money. So they want to know your funeral arrangements are taken care of. It's all, and again, it's a lot easier to sit, it's a hard topic to bring up no matter what, but it's a lot easier to sit down and talk about it before it actually happens.
Yeah. Yeah, we've had that conversation with a couple other speakers as far as just like preparing, having that conversation is like, when do you want to go into assisted living, or when do you want to do this? And so this is just another step in just trying to make sure it's easier for your family. So
Hmm.
I'm sure you have a lot of like interfaith funeral services, and that's probably an interesting. Can you expand on what happens with those?
So interfaith marriages exist, interfaith funerals really do not. So
Oh.
it's one or the other. They're not really like co-officiated or anything.
Uh-huh.
So if you're in an interfaith marriage and your spouse dies, you usually opt for their what they were brought up in. So, i.e., you're not Jewish, your Jewish spouse dies, they call us and we run the funeral and we help them through it because they don't know all the Jewish customs and everything. That
Hmm.
said, what we're trying to get people to understand is that we're a funeral home first and foremost. We can help anyone. So that if you like the way we handled your spouse and you're not of the same faith, we can still handle your funeral and we'll do whatever you want in respect to your faith. It's not an issue. So that's basically where the interfaith comes in. But there's rarely will you have a, if ever, I don't know if ever a priest and a rabbi or a priest and a rabbi and a minister have co-officiated a funeral. So
Okay.
I can't swear to that, but I've never seen one. So
Okay. So how has the industry evolved since you've been a part of it? I mean, it's part of your life. So how have things evolved? Has there been much changes in the funeral industry?
yeah, especially for us, there's been a lot. One of the things is that funerals are not cookie cutter anymore. They're
Mm,
not a 20 to 30-minute service in our chapel, then process out to the cemetery. They've become much more, they become longer. They've become more, so they're more of a celebration. People want to add music, they want to add videos, they have more speakers, they're more personalized than they've
mm,
ever been before. Um, so for us, such a challenge was scheduling because people are using the chapels longer. So we have to figure out, timing and all. Services at cemeteries when they're just at the cemetery or at synagogue, same thing. They become longer because people want to speak and they have other people speaking. Um, Cremation is majorly on the rise, so we have to learn that cremation is just a form of disposition. It still has to be a funeral and a service and a celebration. Um, and then with the pandemic,
mm.
Zoom,
Oh,
Zoom.
yeah.
We didn't know Zoom from a hole in the wall, and now almost every service that's graveside is Zoomed. We have live stream in our chapels, which we've had for a while, but wow, how did that grow in popularity during the pandemic? Because once we opened our chapels back up, you only allowed a few people in,
Mm.
or mandate. So, and for the longest time, we closed our chapels, and all we did were services at the cemetery, and then only 10 people could come by because that's what the cemetery allowed. So, yeah, Zooming and live streaming and technology, DocuSign, learning how to do arrangements over the phone and getting all the contracts and everything to a family, all brand new to us. I don't know about any other funeral homes, but for us, it was learn on the fly, and hopefully we did okay.
Yeah, so is there a process or how do you stay up to date with the trends or the best practices?
There's industry magazines, there's industry newsletters, there's every state has their own funeral directors association. So Goldstein, Jersey, Rayfield Sachs is associated with the Pennsylvania Funeral Directors Association and National Funeral Directors. There's a couple other organizations. We actually work with consultants that help us stay on track and training and stuff like that. It's just being, I mean, honestly, just paying attention to what's going on in the world. You can basically pick up stuff and learn. But we try the best we can to stay on top of everything and learn. And it's every day's learning. There's always something new every day. So
And I bet that there are some funerals where like family brings in their own like traditions or their own things that they have done or would like to do.
again, they become more personalized. Yes.
Mhm.
There are certain things that certain families will want to do. I can't think of anything like maybe place a flower on the casket instead of earth like we do in our tradition, or they pass like we had a funeral where the person who died was a huge Eagles fan and everyone wore an Eagles jersey. I love the Eagles. We've done stuff like that. Specifically certain music, like yeah, they bring in their own personal touch
Mhm.
there. One of the trends that has definitely changed is people are not dressing their loved ones in suits and gowns like they used to and dresses. Like
Hmm.
I see a lot of people going in jeans and a sweatshirt,
Okay.
like the formality of it, and people coming into services are less formal than they used to be. Um, some of the cultures come into play with that. Other cultures are still very dressed up and whatever, but it's interesting to watch, how things have changed.
Yeah. Well, this is a very emotional, challenging time, not only for the families, but how does your team, your staff, how do you support them or how do they handle all the emotional?
Um, we laugh a lot. We joke around a lot. We're there, we again, when you come into this industry, you kind of know it's not 9 to 5, it's 24/7, and you know what you're getting into, and there's certain cases, no matter what, are going to get you. Like whenever there's a child, there's
No.
no getting around that. And whenever it becomes personal, when you lose a family member yourself, it gets a little harder. But we're just there for each other. If someone really needs help, we'll support them and we'll offer them anything they need and give them the time off and whatever. But I think people that work in this industry kind of learn how to balance it.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, that's why there's alcohol. Um, but whatever gets you through the day, like whatever, you know, talk about it, talk about it to us. Like we talk about the hard stuff, and sometimes you just need time to go into a room by yourself and cry.
Mm,
It does get hard.
yeah. Yeah, I imagine when a child comes through, that's got to be pretty traumatic for
It
everybody.
is. I tend to take a lot of those cases. I don't mind. I mean, I mind them. They stink, but I don't mind dealing with the families. I feel like I can keep them on track and keep them moving forward, and yet let them grieve. They are not easy. And honestly, it doesn't matter how old the child is. If there's a parent living and a child dies before them,
Mm,
I don't care if your mother is 90 and she's burying her, it's still a loss of a child and it's
yeah,
god awful. I don't think there's anything worse.
yeah. Yeah, I didn't think about adult children. I was thinking more of, like teen and younger, but yeah, I was,
Doesn't matter if you're a parent, no matter how old your child is, you're still that parent and you're supposed to go before them in the, natural order of things.
hmm, hmm,
So it's hard.
yeah. So how do you feel that your service stands out today from other services, or what do you think is unique about your service?
I think personal touch. I think we try really hard to keep in contact with their families, not just at the arrangement, but if there's like a day in between, call the family, see how they're doing. Do they
Yeah.
need anything? Basically, like concierge service. Like you just
Mhm.
always want to be there for them. After the service, we'll call them and see how they're doing. Maybe a couple months down the line, we'll call them,
Mm,
see if they need anything, see how they're doing. Even after a year, try and give them a call. The other thing we've done is we have a we've started calling also to see if they need help with estate planning, if they need help with grief counseling. We send out information a month after the funeral if they need any aftercare support. It's contact. It's absolutely like keeping in touch with them. When they see our name flash up on their ID, it's not, oh, this is going to be a bad call. Like maybe, it's you build relationships with people.
oh yeah.
And
Oh,
that's
that's very
basically
special.
it is. And
Yeah.
it's not easy. I mean, you have to remember, for us, like we're talking to so many people every day, you
Mhm.
have to make the effort to really keep in touch and, hopefully no one slips through the cracks. Or if they do, you call them a day later. You work on it. There's relationships. Look, word of mouth is everything. No matter how much you advertise, you always want to sound good word of mouth.
Yeah.
That's definitely a big thing. So when we keep in contact and they're seeing Goldstein's, Rosenberg's, Raphael Sachs, all the hearing from us all the time, it puts us in a good light. It
Mhm.
shows that we care, and we do. We really care about our families, and we want to give them top-notch service from soup to nuts.
No, that's
Because with
great.
a funeral, you can't mess up. It doesn't look good if something goes wrong. So we really
Yeah.
pride ourselves in doing it right the only time.
Wow. Well, any closing thoughts?
And in closing thoughts, all I can say is that, again, biggest skill any industry can use is listening. When your customer's speaking, your client's speaking, your family's speaking, let them finish their thoughts. Give them time to express themselves and then think about it before you answer.
Mhm.
Um, I say that, if you're thinking about prearranging a funeral service or you have family that's getting up in age and you have questions, you can always contact me, even if you're out of state. Again, we're Goldstein's Rosemary's Rayfield Sachs Funeral Home. You can always do info@goldsteinsfuneral.com. They can always give us a call. Our number is 215-927-5800. We're happy to answer anyone's questions no matter what. And just know that, your local funeral directors hopefully are there for you as well as we are for our clients.
Okay, we'll put all that information in the links below too. So, well,
Thank you.
thank you so much. That was very insightful as far as honestly, my parents have both pre-planned theirs. My father has passed, but my mama has prepared hers too. And um, it really is a blessing to know that that's taken care of and it's the way they want it to be. So I really encourage listeners that really think about this. I mean, have that conversation if you have parents that are still alive, that talk to them about what would they like, what kind of music do they want to, how would they see their funeral being taken care of. So,
Exactly.
yeah. Well, thank you so much. And Giant Builders, we'll see you next week.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening. This has been The Giant Builders with Lois Wyant.